Anyways, it's time for for you guys to hear my humble opinion on some new releases of music, and we're gonna get into that. We got some big releases that happened in the past couple weeks, and so I want to talk about them. We've got the brand new self-titled album from Mat Kearney. My history with Mat Kearney is that I was a huge fan. I loved songs like Ships in the Night, Closer to Love, a lot of his, I guess a lot of his hits. But I think for some reason I kind of died out. My love for him kind of dwindled out for some reason. I think it was because, I don't know, I was going in a different direction, and it kind of seemed that Mat Kearney's music was getting a little bit more mainstream. I don't know. I'd have to go back to his older albums and listen to the ones that I missed as well. But he was releasing some singles out for this new album, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna give him a listen. And I don't know what it was, but a lot of those singles just really hit home for me. I mean, yeah, his music isn't like the deepest thing, but it's just really fun, cozy music, that you just can't go wrong with. And I feel like he gets pretty personal with this album. I mean, I think it's interesting that even though this isn't his debut album, this is the album that he chooses to be self-titled, which is interesting. But yeah, even though these songs are like pretty surface level, like pop, like acoustic-y, indie rock poppy sort of, which is not a diss on it at all. I'm just saying. There's a lot of the songs get pretty deep. Like, it feels like a lot of these songs are directed towards his wife and talking about, his love for her. And, the beginning track, Headlights Home, he's talking about how much he misses her when he's out on the road. And so yeah, and like Drowning in Nostalgia was another favorite single of mine, where he's talking about someone who's like really dealing with struggling with the ghosts of his past, and I don't know, it's just even though it's pretty deep, it's also just a really cozy album. It kind of has that summer afternoon kind of vibe, that's kind of similar to like Tyson Motzenbacher's Someday I'll Make It All Up to You. It's kind of a summer afternoon sort of vibe for me. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, you can't really go too deep with this album, but I really enjoyed it. And it's, with some albums, it's just all about them vibes. And Mat Kearney's self-titled definitely has those vibes. So if you were a Mat Kearney fan before, definitely check this out. And, if you just want some easy listening that'll just get you going through your day, I recommend this album. So yeah, definitely check it out. Still feels like taste on my lips, swinging your hair, ball in your fist. All right, and now this is the big release, I feel like, for many people this year. We have the new album Clancy from 21 Pilots, and this is the one that everyone's talking about. And I have to say that I have some particular hype for this album because I was pretty excited for it with a lot of the singles leading up to it. A bit of history with me with 21 Pilots is that I like a lot of people, I really got on the 21 Pilots bandwagon around when like Vessel was out, and when Blurry Face came out, and they were really a band that I really resonated with at the time. It was all about the lyrics, but also just the fun music that they made and the experimentalism that they went through with a lot of their music. And not really sure exactly what happened, but there was some point where I kind of grew tired of them. Couldn't really explain why, but I was kind of dying out of them for my love for them up until when Trench came out. And Trench for me was like life-changing. Maybe not life-changing, but Trench was like the album that got me back into them. I love that album. It's my favorite album from them. I just loved how dark it was, and it felt like a lot more mature and consistent for them as a band. And then Scaled and Icy came out, and I really was not a fan of that. It kind of felt like that they had taken a few steps back to just like, I don't know, I just didn't like it. There were a couple of songs from Scaled and Icy that I really liked, but then when they were releasing the singles for Clancy, and you had the first single, Overcompensate, where they're talking about like welcome back to Trench, it gave me hope. Like, it was like, I don't know if I wasn't sure if I really wanted them to repeat Trench, but I definitely at least wanted them to go back to like producing with Paul Meany, which Paul Meany didn't produce much of Scaled and Icy as far as I know. But I wanted him to go back to producing a whole album, and he pretty much, as far as I know, produced like 90 to 95% of this album. And so I was really excited about that, and I was really liking a lot of the singles. And and then finally the album came out. I was actually one of the privileged to watch. Well, actually, no, I didn't watch the live stream, but I did watch the live stream later, where they showed all the music videos and such, and that was really fun, and that added like a whole new experience to experiencing the album. And I like it. It's not, I don't think it's as good as Trench, but it's definitely better than Scaled and Icy, and I think I like it better, definitely, than Blurry Face and Vessel. Although I got to go back to those albums sometime. There's still a couple tracks from those albums that I still hold dear to my heart, like Holding On to You and Guns for Hands. Maybe one day I'll do a 21 Pilots like album tier list someday. So that'll make me like go back to those albums. But anyways, I think Clancy is really good. I don't think it's kind of like taking the best of both worlds, of like the best of Vessel and Blurry Face, and meeting it with Trench. And I think it's really good. I still think Trench is my favorite, but I just like how, at first it does get like pretty dark, like Trench, with Overcompensate and albums like that. But I also think that there are some tracks on here that they go places that no other albums really did before. Especially, I think there's some tracks on here that go for more of a punk vibe. You got songs like Next Semester, which I think that Next Semester is my favorite song on the album. But you also had what was the other one that was really Navigating, also had some punkish vibes to it, but they still maintain their knack for blending a whole bunch of different genres into one, and yet still, at least for Trench and Clancy, I kind of feel like Vessel and Blurry Face, it gets a little lost with some of their genre changes. But this one, I feel like they do a good job with blending all these genres into one cohesive album. And, it's kind of just like all these songs are just banger after banger. And I like how they implement the punk, and then there's like a lot more straight up, more hip hoppy kind of tracks, like Routines in the Night. And the pop, and all of that. It's just, I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. I like how it keeps you guessing as it goes along, but it still feels like the same album. And those are some of my favorite kinds of albums, is that they have all those dynamics. They have all those different kinds of sounds. Like, each song sounds distinct. One of my least favorite things for an album to do is just to sound the same for every track, and there's like no dynamic. I'm looking at You Cope by Manchester Orchestra, although Black Model of the Surface is one of my all-time favorite albums. But so this album is just a lot of fun, and a lot of bangers on here. So that's my in-depth review of that album. So I think, and as far as I know, this album has made a lot of 21 Pilots fans happy. It's made a lot of fans like me who are kind of more purely Trench fans, and people who have been, who are fans of the other albums. It seems pretty unanimous that everyone really likes this album, because I remember that Trench was a very divisive album. So this one seems to be unifying a lot of people, and I think that's cool. So yeah, big fan. I'm back on the bandwagon of 21 Pilots, and so it feels good to be back. So thank you, Tyler and Josh, for that. So, and I wish that I'm not really a lore head when it comes to 21 Pilots. I really have not followed any of that, really. So I wish that I could go more in depth about that, but I can't really. So sorry. All I can really say is that the music's good, So yeah, Clancy by 21 Pilots. It's good. All right, one exciting release for me, because I'm a huge fan of this guy. Josh Garrels has a new single, and it seems that he's pulling I'm pretty sure he's pulling a Gorillaz song machine and releasing each track off of this album as it comes out, and just releasing every track off of the album until the whole album is out. That's kind of what it seems that I judged from one of his posts. But yeah, he's got a new single called Rock My Soul, and it's a very different song from what I'm used to from Josh Garrels. It's got such a fun reggae feel to this track. I love the tasteful saxophone. It's a different kind of feel for Josh Garrels, but it really works for him. There's one thing that I've always been worried about with Josh Garrels, is that he sometimes, I've felt that like he's been in the danger of being kind of locked into the same genre, like indie singer-songwriter genre. But this track was very different for him, and so I commend him for that. So it's a lot of fun. It's a perfect song of worship, as Josh thanks God for all of his goodness and everything he's done for him. So yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the singles after this. So far, we're 3 for 3 of these singles, and yeah, Rock My Soul by Josh Garrels. Check it out. You rock my soul in your love. Whoa, together we'll make it. All right, this next release is a very interesting release, because it is technically a posthumous release. Many of you youngsters probably, we mentioned this band earlier in the episode, The Call. So for those of you who don't know, The Call was a pretty... Well, they had a cult following, and, they had a career that spanned from the 80s into the late 90s, and led by Michael Bean, who, tragically passed away. And so, there was no real hope for The Call to reunite and make new music, although they did reunite with Michael Bean's son, taking the vocals. I forget his son's name, but that was pretty cool. But yeah, other than that, there was no hope for any fan to hear any new music from them ever again, until they announced that they had found some lost tapes, some lost unreleased songs that never saw the light of day, and they got a whole fundraiser together and everything to make this release. And they also did some remastered versions of their first 2 albums, and I gotta say, I haven't really checked them out, but I'm sure they're good, because those albums were already good. And so a modern remaster, I'm sure, would be really cool to listen to. But yeah, so don't expect this to be a cohesive album, because it's not. You've got different unreleased songs from different periods of the band's existence, which span from the 80s to the late 90s, like I said. But that doesn't make it any less fun to listen to. The masters sound great, although some of the tracks have that old tape kind of sound to it, which, is unavoidable because they're literally old lost tapes. They're not just tracks that were just found on a computer. They were actual recordings on tape from back then. So they're going to sound like that. But I think that aspect is more charming than distracting all of a sudden because, I can't imagine being a fan from way back then and then suddenly being able to hear brand new tracks from one of your favorite bands that stopped making music years ago. And there was never any hope for there to be any new tracks because, the lead singer passed away. So that's really fun to think about. Of course, I am a more recent fan. I only just kind of started getting into them within the past couple of years. But a lot of these songs are still really strong and honestly among my favorites, including Welcome to My World, I'm Yours, and Amazed by You. Michael Bean's voice gives these songs a melancholic strength that makes them soar. I also love the diversity in the tracks. You've got arena rockers that would have obviously been fan favorites if they were, released at the time, all the way to wacky tracks like the country rocker Time in a Beer Bottle. But it's a fun track. It kind of makes you wonder what they were experimenting with at the time. While I would suggest albums like their first 3 albums, Reconciled, Into the Woods, or Let the Day Begin, to newcomers as better introductory albums, The Lost Tapes is a fantastic treat for any fans of The Call and of Michael Bean. So yeah, it's as far as like posthumous albums go, it's really fun. So check out The Lost Tapes by The Call. All right, so we're getting to the end, and well, hello there. Thanks so much for watching this video. It means a lot. Not sure if you noticed, but this is actually a clip from a longer full-length episode that you can go check out right now on my main channel. I'm Clifford today, because this channel is just a clips and highlights channel, because if you're not a real YouTuber unless you have multiple channels. So anyways, go like and subscribe and all that stuff. I love you.